Have you been to a grocery shop lately, only to be confronted with aisles of empty shelves? You're not imagining it. The current food scarcity situation is shaping up to be the worst since 2020, and it's occurring quickly. Food prices have increased by 12% in the last quarter alone. That is huge. But here's the worrisome part. Experts believe this is just the beginning. Global maritime interruptions have reached a 5-year high. Since December, container prices have risen. On top of that, harsh weather is decimating crops in some of the world's most significant agricultural regions. Basically, it's the ideal storm, and it's slamming right into your neighborhood grocery store. In this video, I'll disclose 10 supermarket goods that are on track to disappear from shop shelves by the end of March 2025. These are not wild guesses. They're based on current inventory levels, supplier warnings, and some very recent industry data from February. So if you're thinking, I'll wait and see, you may want to reconsider, especially when you hear about the 7th. That one really surprised me, and I've been watching these trends for years. Let's get started before these necessities go from your shopping cart for good. Number 1, olive oil. If you've lately browsed the cooking oil aisle, you may have experienced sticker shock. Olive oil prices are skyrocketing, and quickly. Here's what's going on. The Mediterranean just experienced its worst olive crop in decades. That's significant since Spain and Italy account for more than 60% of global olive oil production. According to the International Olive Council, production has decreased by 35% this year. That is big. Why? It began with devastating heat waves last summer. In certain places of Spain, temperatures reached 115 degrees Fahrenheit and remained there for weeks. It literally roasted the olives directly on the trees. I saw this comment from an Italian farmer. In 40 years, I've never seen anything like this. Our trees are worried. They're producing fewer olives, and the oil they offer us is of inferior quality. This is more than just having less olive oil on the shelf. It is also about losing the good stuff. Extra virgin olive oil, which demands the highest grade olives, will be the most difficult to find. What about the bottles you find? Yes, they will cost you. Prices have already risen 45% since November, with experts forecasting another 30% increase by mid-March. If you cook with olive oil on a daily basis, I highly recommend purchasing a few bottles now, particularly extra virgin. This will not last forever, but prices and availability are unlikely to recover until the next harvest. So we're talking about a 6 to 8 month wait. Stock up while you can. Number 2, cocoa goods. Chocolate. That delightful little pleasure we all enjoy. Well, it's about to become a lot more expensive and difficult to find. Cocoa prices are currently at an all-time high, up 78% compared to previous year. And yes, it's about to get worse. West Africa accounts for over 70% of the world's cocoa production. But right now, Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire are experiencing a dreadful growing season. Production fell by 30% last month. What is causing it? It's a perfect storm. Dying cocoa trees, scorching heat, and a deadly fungal disease called swollen shoot virus, which is wiping off entire fields. What was the result? Less cocoa. Way less. Big chocolate businesses like Hershey's and Nestle aren't simply boosting prices. They're also reducing their offerings. What about the $2 chocolate bar from last year? It's now $3.50. It's smaller. But here's the kicker. Some things will not be available at any price. By mid-March, many stores will be out of high-quality dark chocolate, baking cocoa powder, and even Easter-themed chocolates. One big supplier recently notified merchants that they will only receive 40% of their regular chocolate inventory by the end of the month. So if chocolate is your comfort food, go to baking ingredient or favorite present to give. Now is the time to stock up. And don't expect prices to drop anytime soon. The cocoa problem is global, and the recovery will take time. One store manager I spoke with recently informed me that at some locations, consumers are already limited to only 2 chocolate items per person. It's so serious. So, if chocolate is your thing, buy up now. Take your favorite bars, baking chips, or the rich cocoa powder you use for brownies. These things keep well for months in a cold, dry environment, so you don't have to worry about waste. If you're looking for a backup strategy, consider using carob goods. They taste shockingly similar and are derived from a completely different plant that is not experiencing the same type of crisis. Not everyone enjoys them, but they're a good substitute when chocolate just is not an option anymore. The chocolate emergency is real, people. Do not wait till the shelves are empty. Number 3, some citrus fruits. Let's discuss about citrus. That delicious orange juice in the morning, it may become a luxury item before March is finished. Florida's citrus sector has recently reached a 90-year low. 3 hurricanes tore across the region's groves, destroying crops and causing long-term damage. According to the most recent USDA report, orange production is down 63% compared to previous year. And here's the bit that really scares me. The storms didn't only knock the fruit off the trees. They struck during the blossoming season. This suggests we're not just dealing with one lousy year. This could take years to recover from. It is not limited to the United States, either. Spain and Italy, which produce the majority of Europe's citrus, just experienced the warmest winter on record, and lemon production has dropped by nearly 50%. What about those bright yellow Meyer lemons that everyone enjoys baking with? Say goodbye. They'll be among the first to leave. Currently, importers prefer large commercial purchasers over local grocery stores. That implies restaurants may still have lemons. What about your neighborhood market? Probably not. Grapefruits are also experiencing significant declines. The same storm-battered regions provide 80% of the United States supplies. Prices have already risen by 45% since January, and one major grocery store has just warned that its suppliers cannot guarantee delivery till mid-March. And this extends well beyond simply eating fruit fresh. The citrus scarcity is beginning to impact everything from marmalades to flavored seltzers that include citrus oils. What about blood oranges and key limes? Almost tough to find. I went to 3 stores last weekend. Nothing. My neighbor works at a local grocery, and they informed me that their shipments had just stopped. What about the few citrus fruits that arrive? Many of them are underripe or damaged because wholesalers hurry them out too quickly. Most people are unaware, however, that the citrus crisis is also having a significant impact on vitamin C pills. Manufacturers employ citrus byproducts to produce natural vitamin C, and they're now looking for alternatives. If you rely on supplements, especially natural ones, now might be a good time to get an additional bottle or 2. If you live in California or Texas, you may continue to see some local citrus for a while. However, expect to pay roughly 3 times more than you did last year. And what about those small mandarin oranges that kids love? Yeah, according to the most recent industry newsletter, they'll be gone by the 3rd week of March. Schools have already been instructed to begin sourcing additional fruits for lunch programs this spring. Most individuals are unaware that such a deficit causes a domino effect. When people can't get oranges, they begin to buy more apples and berries. So now, berry prices have risen by 30% in just 3 weeks. What would be my best advice right now? Buy extra citrus while you can. Juice and freeze it. Grab some frozen concentrate while it's still on the shelves. And if you enjoy food preservation, salt curing or dehydrating citrus is a wise decision. My friend recently filled her freezer drawer with organic lemon zest. And I'm telling you, it's like liquid gold when fresh lemons aren't available. Number 4, coffee. Okay, coffee lovers. This one hurts. What about that magical cup that gets so many of us through the day? It's in serious danger. According to the International Coffee Organization, worldwide coffee production has reached its lowest point in 8 years. Brazil, which produces 40% of the world's coffee, is experiencing its worst drought in decades. Moisture levels in important growing zones are critically low, according to satellite pictures taken just a few weeks ago. And it isn't just about the present harvest. Some farmers claim that the soil is so dry that new coffee plants are unable to survive. That means the problem isn't limited to 2025. It might last until 2026 or beyond. The coffee supply chain is currently under significant stress. If you need that morning cup, like I do, now is the time to plan. Prices are already rising, and choices is beginning to dwindle in certain areas. And it's not only Brazil. Colombian coffee producers were devastated by floods last month, wiping out roughly 30% of their harvests. Vietnam is dealing with a completely different issue. Labor shortages are so severe that coffee beans are physically withering on the trees. According to a survey released last week by local agricultural officials, they are currently short 40,000 laborers. It's surreal to consider, yet the pandemic's repercussions are still wreaking havoc on worldwide agricultural communities. The job market evolved dramatically, and many of these shifts have not been reversed. Let us also discuss climate change, which is having a particularly negative impact on the coffee industry. These plants are extremely sensitive to temperature changes, even only a 1 or 2 degree increase. This can adversely affect both yield and quality. A recent study revealed that 60% of wild coffee species are on the verge of extinction. 60%, all due to shifting weather patterns. This goes much beyond your typical morning pick-me-up. We're talking about 125 million people worldwide whose livelihoods rely on coffee, who grow, process, and sell it. The impact is massive. So what does this mean for us now? Well, prominent stores have already reacted. Some businesses are limiting customers to 2 bags of coffee each. And Starbucks? They just announced an average 18% price increase beginning next week. This is on top of all previous increases. If you prefer small batch, single-origin beans from your local roaster, they're being struck the worst. When supplies run low, small businesses cannot compete with large corporations. And the shortfall is affecting Arabica beans first, the smoother, less bitter variety that most people prefer. Experts predict that by mid-March, many grocery stores would no longer provide premium options. Robusta beans, which are more bitter and contain more caffeine, may still be available, but at double the price. Yes, even instant coffee prices are expected to rise soon. The increases are likely to take effect in early April. So if you drink coffee like me, don't wait. Purchase your favorite beans now. They can stay fresh for months if frozen in an airtight container. Just make careful to keep the dampness out. And hey, if you're looking for alternatives, tea hasn't been hammered as badly this year. It's not the same, I understand, but it's desperate times, right? Another old-school tip. During previous coffee shortages, chicory root was utilized as a substitute. It's earthy, roasted, and worth having on hand just in case things get worse. Number 5. Some fish selections. Okay, now let's speak about seafood. And I'm sorry to say you, but if you've been fantasizing of fish tacos all spring, you might be out of luck. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration just announced the most stringent seasonal fishing limitations in the last 15 years. These are not typical regulations. Rather, they are emergency measures to prevent certain fish populations from failing. Scientists monitoring ocean temperatures discovered some concerning results. Fish are venturing into new waters, deeper, farther distant, and more difficult to reach. Traditional fishing tactics just cannot keep up. Who will be the first to be let go? Wild-caught salmon. Alaska just reduced March fishing permits by 60%, citing dangerously low population numbers. If you adore those deep pink salmon fillets, act quickly. They'll be gone from most seafood counters by mid-March. And this is not a one-time problem. Salmon has been ailing for years. The Columbia River Basin experienced its lowest return of spawning salmon in 3 decades. Only 38% of the predicted fish returned to their spawning habitats last year. That is why prices increased by roughly 30% in February. And in certain areas, retailers are already limiting customers to 2 packets each visit. But it's not only salmon. Brace yourself, shrimp lovers. Right now, the Gulf Coast is in a disaster. Warmer waters, up to 3 degrees above usual, have significantly altered mating patterns. To make matters worse, a large shipping container disaster off the coast of Louisiana in January contaminated important harvesting sites. What was the result? Shrimp prices have risen 40% since February, and suppliers are scrambling. I actually spoke with a restaurant owner in New Orleans last week. Her seafood distributor informed her that by April, the only shrimp available would be the size of a thumbnail, if any at all. The bigger, juicier shrimp is nearly tough to source, but it's crab that's really causing seafood traders to panic. The Pacific Northwest crabbing season has been cut short by 6 weeks. Ocean temperatures are driving crabs deeper and farther out, making them much more difficult to trap. One of my friends owns a seafood restaurant and informed me that he had received word from his source that no more Dungeness crab will be available after March 15th. That is it. Commercial catch is down 62% this year compared to the historical norm. One Seattle fisherman even claimed that this is the worst season he's ever seen. And these people have been at it for decades. And after 22 years of pulling pots, I can tell you, those nice lobster rolls, they aren't going to do much better. Maine's lobster business is now struggling. New trap restrictions and shorter seasons are in place to preserve declining populations. Insiders believe lobster prices will reach $45 per pound by late March. Yikes, right? And this isn't just a local issue. The warmer Gulf of Maine has caused lobsters to migrate north. That has resulted in record catches in Canadian waters, whereas Maine fishermen are having a far more difficult time. To make matters worse, there's an international problem. Tariffs and transportation expenses are driving up lobster prices, making it unaffordable for many. But don't despair just yet. There's still hope for certain seafood enthusiasts. Farm-raised tilapia, and catfish should remain constant. These are developed under controlled conditions, so they are unaffected by fluctuations in ocean temperature. However, like with everything else, feed costs are driving prices up by roughly 10 to 15%. Frozen fish options will be available for some time, but as you can expect, costs will rise as consumers seek alternatives. So, if seafood is a regular in your household, now is the time to stock up and fill the freezer before supplies run out. Here's a brilliant tip I learned. Visit international food stores. They frequently get fish from alternative supply lines than major supermarkets, and they may still have inventory when larger retailers run out. Additionally, seafood freezes very well. If you correctly wrap fish, it can last for 4 to 6 months without losing quality. Number 6. Rice varieties. Consider this. You walk into your regular grocery shop, head right for your favorite bag of jasmine or basmati rice, and boom, the shelf is empty. You blink, glance around, and notice a small sign that reads, "Temporarily out of stock." Your mind races, what happened to the rice? Why is it so hard to locate now? Well, believe it or not, it is not all in your brain. Rice shortages are real, and they affect millions of people around the world. Rice is a basic diet for more than half of the world's population, but things have recently gotten complicated. Climate change, harsh weather occurrences, government export prohibitions, and supply chain disruptions all contributed to a massive rice scarcity. Prices are the highest they've been in almost 15 years. In 2023 alone, the global rice deficiency will be 8.5 million metric tons. To put it into perspective, consider the whole population of the United States losing access to rice for a year. That is the size of the scarcity we are confronting. So what's driving this crisis? There's a perfect storm of concerns. In some areas, flooding have destroyed whole harvests. In other cases, heat waves and droughts have reduced harvests by 30% or more. Farmers who rely on seasonal rains are seeing their crops struggle to thrive amid tougher weather. As supplies shrink, major rice-producing countries are stockpiling stocks to feed their own people. Take India as an example. India, the world's top rice exporter, has curtailed exports numerous times since 2022 to keep local food prices stable. This created a significant ripple effect throughout the worldwide market. In July 2023, India banned the export of non-basmati white rice, sending shockwaves through countries that rely on Indian imports, including the Philippines, Indonesia, and even sections of the United States. The restriction was abolished in September 2024, but with one big caveat. India now sets a minimum export price for rice, making it far more expensive to acquire globally. This resulted in price rises of up to 20% overnight. Many countries are struggling to purchase the rice they always relied on. Even the United States is feeling the pressure, with major grocery store prices rising and supplies becoming less predictable. Not all rice is decreasing at the same rate. However, basmati and jasmine rice are particularly at risk. These premium cultivars are sourced from Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, and India, and with stricter export regulations, they're becoming more difficult to find and pricey. Cowrose rice, the short grain variety popular in the United States, is also under threat. California's productivity is declining owing to water scarcity and drought. And then there's brown rice. Because it has a shorter shelf life, many producers are choosing white rice, resulting in shortages in some places. Traditional rice types in Japan are also facing difficulties as a result of severe heat. The government is promoting heat-resistant varietals, but it is unclear if they will be able to meet future demand. Climate change is anticipated to lower world rice yields by 15% by 2050, unless dramatic measures are done. So, what can you do about this? First and foremost, be prepared for price increases. Don't be surprised if your favorite bag of rice suddenly costs a lot more. And if rice is a staple in your diet, stock up while it's still available and reasonably priced. If rice is a mainstay in your household, stock up on non-perishable varieties while they are still fairly priced. It's also a good idea to stock your cupboard with grains like quinoa, barley, and couscous, which are less affected by supply chain interruptions. Another wise decision: support local and sustainable farming techniques. Rice shortages are about more than just supply and demand. They also involve sustainability. To ensure long-term stability, governments and farmers must invest in water-efficient rice production techniques and heat-resistant crop varieties. This rice crisis is more than simply a passing fad. It is a warning indication of more serious food security issues. The next time you see a higher price on your favorite bag of rice, you'll know why. And if this shortage persists, we may soon see something as fundamental as rice become a luxury item. If you notice any changes in rice availability or costs in your area, please remark below. Let's chat about it. Number 7. Fresh berries. Remember last March, when you could get a carton of strawberries for around $3.99? Those days are gone. Fresh berries are going to be the luxury item of spring 2025, and here's why. Recent climate statistics reveal unusual temperature swings in major berry-growing regions. California's berry belt had the driest winter in 15 years, with precipitation 42% below average. Meanwhile, Florida's early berries were hit by 3 unexpected frosts in January, wiping off about 30% of the crop. But it gets worse. The berry tragedy isn't only a U.S. issue. According to the most recent agricultural figures, Mexico's berry exports, which traditionally fill the March shortfall, have dropped by an astounding 35%. Furthermore, labor shortages have resulted in thousands of acres remaining unharvested as workers seek higher-paying opportunities. How does this affect your shopping cart? Strawberries are predicted to reach $8.99 per pound by mid-March. Blueberries aren't doing much better, with costs anticipated to exceed $7.50 for a small 6-ounce package. Grocery buyers have already warned that if wholesale prices rise above the profitability threshold, they will cease ordering organic raspberries entirely. One insider at a big grocery chain stated that they intend to reduce berry shelf space by 40% in March and April, replacing it with more reliable fruit options. What's your best bet? Go to the freezer area now. Frozen berries remain at last season's prices and are nutritionally equivalent to fresh ones. Stock up while you can. Frozen kinds will experience price increases as suppliers deplete their existing supplies. Some buyers are even buying fresh berries and freezing them at home, which could be a wise decision given what's ahead. If you absolutely need fresh berries, look for farmers markets or local farms with tiny greenhouse operations. You may pay a premium, but you will at least find something when the conventional supermarket shelves are empty. Number 8. Specialty flours. Consider this. You're all set to make your favorite gluten-free bread or the almond flour banana bread that everyone loves about. You go to the grocery store with your shopping list, and the specialized flour department is almost completely depleted. There's no almond flour. Coconut flour is prohibitively expensive, and even oat flour appears to be in short supply. Sounds familiar? You're not alone. Specialty flours are disappearing from shop shelves, so if you rely on them, it may be time to stock up. But why is this happening? It all comes down to supply chain difficulties, which we've been hearing about for years. First, there was the epidemic. Then there are worldwide shipping delays. Now, inclement weather is exacerbating the problem. Many of the major components used to make these specialty flours, including almonds, coconuts, and oats, are experiencing manufacturing and shipment problems. Farmers are battling with unexpected weather patterns, and the transportation system is unable to meet demand. As demand for specialized flours rises, particularly among gluten-free and health-conscious consumers, the supply chain strain becomes more apparent. So if you rely on certain things, get them in bulk while you can. It requires a small initial cost, but it will spare you the hassle of scrambling when they are difficult to find. The shortage of specialized flours is mostly due to interruptions in global supply networks and climate impacts on critical raw materials. Many specialty flours, such as almond flour, coconut flour, and oat flour, are based on crops that are impacted by severe droughts, increased costs, transportation delays, and bad harvests in key growing regions. For example, almond flour is primarily reliant on almond production in California, which has been severely affected by droughts. This reduces the supply and boosts the price of almond-based items. Coconut flour is produced from tropical places where climate change and growing transportation costs make supply unreliable. Aside from these issues, wheat shortages due to low harvests in countries such as the United States and Ukraine are rising the price of all flour-based products, including these specialist types. As more individuals switch to grain-free, high-protein, or more nutritional flours, the demand for alternatives such as chickpea, cassava, and matcha flour has increased. As a result, shortages have become unavoidable, and prices are increasing. What can you do about this? Buy in quantity whenever feasible. If your favorite flour is in stock, grab an extra bag or two, as many specialty flours store well in airtight containers. If your favorite flour is no longer available, consider substitutes. Consider using hazelnut flour or sunflower seed flour instead of almond flour. If you can't obtain oat flour, you can make your own by grinding rolled oats to a fine powder. Let's go over some tactics and suggestions for dealing with these shortages. Meat shortages: prime ribeye, beef tenderloin, pork shoulder, chicken wings. Certain high-demand meats, such as ribeye steaks, beef tenderloin, hog shoulder, and chicken wings, are in short supply due to manpower shortages at processing factories and increased expenses. Smaller processors are especially vulnerable, and with meat processing factories operating at only 72% capacity, many cuts are already scarce or more expensive. Here's what you can do. If at all possible, stock up early. If you're planning special meals, such as a holiday or family gathering, buy and freeze these slices while they're still available. Alternative choices include chuck roast, hog loin, and chicken thighs. They're more accessible, less expensive, and equally versatile for a variety of dishes. Support your local butchers. They may have access to cutbacks that the larger supply networks are dealing with. Furthermore, you're helping smaller enterprises that may endure less disruptions. Dairy alternatives include oat milk, almond milk, and plant-based yogurts. Plant-based milk, oat milk, and almond milk, and dairy alternatives, such as yogurts and cheeses, are in low supply due to a variety of production constraints, particularly equipment shortages and crop failures. As demand for these products skyrockets, plus 27% in one quarter, supplies simply cannot keep up. Here is what to do. If you rely on plant-based milks and dairy alternatives, stock up on shelf-stable ones, which will stay longer and be more readily available. Make your own almond or oat milk at home. It's much easier than you would imagine. There are numerous basic recipes available, and having this alternative may rescue you when store shelves are bare. Consider fresh alternatives. You may look at cashew milk, hemp milk, or rice milk, which may be easier to find if the more popular options are out of stock. These shortages indicate continued supply chain constraints, labor issues, and environmental repercussions. Being proactive in stocking up, exploring alternatives, and remaining flexible in your buying habits might help alleviate some of the stress. It's also worth emphasizing that, while these shortages appear to be occurring simultaneously, they are the result of underlying structural challenges in our global food systems, such as labor shortages, supply chain inefficiencies, and the effects of climate change. With that in mind, remaining prepared and flexible with your purchases will help you navigate this period of uncertainty. What are your thoughts on how you're modifying your grocery shopping to accommodate these shortages? Have you noticed some of these things vanishing from your local stores?